Okay, so sorry if the sound is too loud, but I'm using a new headset that I just bought. So I found this video. I think it was the 26th. Sorry, the 26th. Uh, I didn't know anything about this video. I didn't know anything about this segment that they had on the Patrick Mahomes discussion. Well, around week three or last week, a ranking came out that ranked the quarterbacks from best to worst, so to speak. And I believe Patrick Mahomes was fourth or sixth, but I know Brady was in the top five. I know Breeze was in the top five. Uh, I believe Rodgers was in the top five, and it was a huge argument, a huge debate over whether or not Patrick Mahomes was slighted uh, because he wasn't number one on the list of being the best quarterback in the NFL. I believe Tom Brady was number one. Um, so now they're having this discussion on whether or not whether or not Patrick Mahomes has a chance to become the greatest quarterback to ever play the game. Now, when we talk about these rankings, when we talk about the best player of this, the best player of that, all of this is subjective. It's not based in any facts because when you have a list, most of the time the player at the top of our list individually is based on the criteria that we have for the players. And to be honest, sometimes the criteria changes, it fluctuates, it moves around, you know. I mean, one year a quarterback, all he would need to do is be able to be a passing leader, and then the next year we're talking about maybe they need to win more Super Bowls, and then the next year we're talking about well maybe they need to be you know a leader in like the most fourth quarter comebacks or something. Like the criteria constantly changes, and with Patrick Mahomes, I said that for me, in my opinion, the only way that this kid can become the greatest quarterback of all time, he's already statistically, he's on his way to being one of the most statistically best, one of the most important quarterbacks to ever play the game. Because your second year, you come out and you pass for 5,000 yards and 50 touchdowns. That you don't see that every day. All right, but if he could follow up this year with what he did last year, I think that statistically he could be the greatest quarterback to ever play the game. The greatest quarterback to ever play the game statistically. Not, in my opinion, the greatest talent or the most accomplished. He'd be statistically the greatest quarterback to ever play the game if he could keep up this level of play. And what I said, in order for me to be able to agree to that statement, Patrick Mahomes would need to play the same way this year that he played last year. And so far, he's been phenomenal. I mean, he's been a showstopper pretty much. Like, this guy is, he's the real deal, talent wise. The kid's the real deal. But do I consider him to be the best quarterback in the NFL this year? Yeah. Do I think that he has a chance to be the greatest quarterback ever? Plain and simple, fuck talent, fuck accomplishments, fuck stats. Do I think he has the chance to be the greatest quarterback of all time? No. Because when we look at quarterbacks in the past, like Steve Young, Dan Marino, John Elway. I mean, Randall Cunningham. If Randall Cunningham was a quarterback today, Randall Cunningham would be killing. He is like 3 or 4 levels more than what Lamar Jackson is. He was a better passer. He was a more exciting runner. I mean, he would be running shit today, in my opinion. Randall Cunningham would be running shit today. But again, the argument for greatest quarterback of all time is subjective because it is based on each individual person's criteria. Now we could try to categorize it like stats, championships, accomplishments. talent. We could try to do that, and then at that point we're basing it on fact. But there's so many different categories, you can't really pinpoint one player. So I don't know, man. At the end, I just want to see Patrick Mahomes have an amazing career. I want to see this kid do some amazing things in the playoffs. I want to see this kid keep improving. Because if Andy Reid has a chance to win a Super Bowl at any point in his career as a head coach, now is the time. Not this year, but now. While Patrick Mahomes is completely destroying the league with his abilities, now is the time for Andy Reid to capitalize on this. And he needs to get that defense together. He needs to find somebody to come in and get that defense together. Because I think that's the only thing that's keeping them from getting there. He even impressed me in the playoffs when he was pretty much neutralized in the first half, and then the second half he found his way through it, and he completely just went off. Like it was amazing. So if he keeps down this path, I think that he has a chance to be statistically the greatest quarterback to ever play the game. But again, even that's subjective, man, because the league now is different than what it was 20, 30 years ago. So I'm gonna let the video play, man.
Race coach from Brett Favre. What do you think the ceiling is for Patrick Mahomes?
Look, he's incredibly talented, and I'm not sure what the ceiling is, and I know we're reaching some new bars in terms of yards allowed. And look, things have changed dramatically since over the last 5 years in terms of what defenses can do, how much they can jam, how much they can hit, and all these records are being rewritten. So I think there needs to be a little bit of a grain of salt there. I imagine that he's probably going to strive to score more than 9 points in the first half against New England. That 4.5 points a game.
That was a shot. That was a great burn right there. But it's very true. The defense of the Patriots is so much better this year, I have no idea why they're better. Because we could look at Miami and say, oh well, they played the Miami Dolphins. Who are the Miami Dolphins? Who are the New York Jets? They also beat Pittsburgh when people thought that Pittsburgh was going to be better, given that Le'Veon Bell and Antonio Brown was out. So, they pretty much destroyed that team. They exposed Juju. Juju has to improve. He has to take that next step to become a number one wide receiver. You can't just get rid of your best receiver, throw the kid that has a good amount of talent into the number one slot and expect him to be a number one receiver. No. There's a difference between being called the number one receiver and being a number one receiver. And I don't think Juju's there. People just anointed him that because he was able to take advantage of single coverages, being on the opposite side of the field from Antonio Brown. So, yeah, don't want to hear that. But Pittsburgh was looked at as a threat this year. Pittsburgh has looked so lousy this year. And I wasn't one of those people that came out and said, well, I think Pittsburgh could be this. I think Pittsburgh could be that. I believed Pittsburgh was going to miss the playoffs. I believed they were going to be average. Now, they're going to be average, and they'll probably be worse than average because Ben Roethlisberger got hurt. But even with Big Ben, I think that they were going to struggle. It's me looking at it from a perspective that I don't have anything invested in any of this. So I could look at a team and be like, well, you take away two of the best players in the league off your team. How do you improve unless you can make up for that? So, we'll see.
Against New England, that's probably something that he'll work to overcome here in the coming months. I imagine the bar, though, has got to be what Tom Brady has set,
People don't like to admit it, but that's just the fact. Now, some people, like I said, when we ranking all-time greats, it's subjective. It's based on criteria. It's based on what your criteria is for the position or for the player. I consider Tom Brady to be the greatest quarterback ever. There is no question about it. Now, do I think that there are some quarterbacks that could come into today's league and pretty much destroy the league? Sure. The conditions of playing back then were a lot tougher. But this is why I don't like getting caught up in comparing eras. Because just different. Evolution, it changes. You know? So, but to be honest, I think Tom Brady could have been great back then. Now, people call Tom Brady soft, and people say that you put a hat on Tom Brady, you could make him tap dance and all this other stuff. Any quarterback that doesn't move out the pocket, if you could put a hat on him, he will tap dance. I'm sorry, that does not mean that Brady can't stand back there and take the hits. So, yeah.
Can he bring his team to 9 Super Bowls? Can he win 6 Super Bowls? Can he consistently compete at a high level?
And those 6 Super Bowls, the first one was the Rams. Brady led them on a game-winning drive that allowed Adam Vinatieri to win with the field goal against the Panthers. It was a back-and-forth game. Brady led them on the final drive into field goal range. And you can even hear from the microphones of the other players on the other team say, "Oh man, Brady's right there, man." I believe it was the Panthers game that they said that they pretty much knew what was going to happen. If their defense couldn't get a big turnover, they knew what was going to happen. You can hear the Panthers players discussing it on the sideline. You can hear the Falcons players discussing it on the sideline. Like, Brady is that guy. I mean, we call a couple of players, a couple quarterbacks, Captain Clutch. In my opinion, Captain Clutch is Tom Brady because he's been doing it since his sophomore year in the NFL. Really, he's been doing it since he was in Michigan. Go back and look at Brady 6 documentary. Not Brady 6. I believe it might have been Brady 6, where they showed his transition from college to the NFL. In college, he kept coming off the bench because they had Drew Henson. They thought Drew Henson was the guy that was going to get them to where they wanted to go. So they would set Tom. And then as soon as Drew Henson or any other quarterback got them in a position where they could have lost the game, they would throw Brady in there. Brady would lead a charge back. So his tendency to lead comebacks, massive comebacks, has been going on since he's been in college.
Can he not take the maximum amount of money every single year on his second?
One, I think it's because his wife is ridiculously wealthy. And two, I think it's because I honestly believe Tom Brady has a low budget lifestyle. It sounds bad when I say that, like that dude be shopping at the Gap or he be shopping at some thrift store. No. It's compared to the money that other quarterbacks and other players pay to dress themselves and to, I don't really get that vibe from this guy. He doesn't strike me as a guy that has to go out of his way to look extraordinarily deaded up or anything like that. So, I mean, I think that with the money that he gets, he is extremely conservative with. And plus, his wife has money. I think that plays a factor in him being able to take less. So, and I think he might be the first quarterback to ever do that year after year and not get paid market value of what he's worth. So that's a major positive.
And third contract, so the team can be good. I mean, there's a bar that's been set. Whether you want to call it the bar or the ceiling, someone else has already set that. And if we're just going to look at it as he has a ton of passing yards, well, congratulations, that'll be a really nice record for him. Or are we going to look at it as he's brought his team to multiple championships and he's been a selfless guy and he's had success at a consistent level for a long time?
Has any quarterback ever been better at this point in their career?
Statistically, no. But if we remember, Tom Brady was drafted in 2000. They won the Super Bowl in 2001. In 2000, he sat behind Drew Bledsoe. They struggled. I don't even think they made the playoffs. The next year, during the preseason, I believe during the preseason or the first game, Drew Bledsoe got hurt. Brady went in. They went 11-5, went to the Super Bowl, and won it.
Are we looking at it apples to apples?
I'm asking.
There's been a lot of
Coach Mancini's opinion.
There's been a lot of great quarterbacks that
I would say Dan Marino.
You think Dan Marino in '80 was better than Mahomes? That's the name I would say.
The game was different.
Yeah.
He played at the same level, and you can.
Nick Wright, during the segment, for what I saw, he had a hard time with understanding that it's different eras. If you get caught up in comparing numbers, of course, Mahomes trumps everybody their second year. But if you base it on the time you live in, the defenses that are played, the level of defense, the level of competition, and like the rate of calls, I mean, it's just different. You know how free it is to pass now. You play more games now. I mean, come on.
And the game was different.
You can do more things to him.
And
You could hit the quarterback. You could hit the wide receivers.
Yep.
You could jam the wide receivers. You could make contact.
And let's not forget, and people like to pretend that Brady didn't play in that era where defenses were actually able to be physical. He was drafted in 2000, I believe, up until 2006, 2007. No, 2005, when the Colts won the Super Bowl. So he had 5 or 6 years of playing a certain style. No, it was 2006. Playing a certain style of physical defenses, being able to hit the quarterback, being able to hit the wide receivers, being able to get away with certain things. And then, from what I hear, that's when Jim Irsay, who was a part of the competition committee, changed the rules to help his team get free on the outside with the wide receivers and stuff. I think they implemented the 5-yard rule. You can bump within 5 yards, but after 5 yards, you can't touch them anymore. And it helped them win the Super Bowl. I'm telling you, it helped them win the Super Bowl.
You could hit people in the middle of the field. And look, I understand where we're going with safety, and I appreciate that. But things have changed dramatically for quarterbacks.
Absolutely.
Right. So if we want to just look at numbers to numbers,
No, I'm not trying to do that. I was really just asking your opinion. And by the way, I think Marino's a great answer. I think you can make the argument that when you adjust for era, Dan Marino's 1984 season, which was his second year, is the greatest season any quarterback has ever had. So I'm not necessarily going to...
Again, we can't say that definitively. All right? Brady won the Super Bowl his second year. And isn't that the peak? Don't players play to win titles? And Ben Roethlisberger also won the Super Bowl his second year. But Ben Roethlisberger doesn't have the numbers. He doesn't have the seasons that you can put together and say that he is the greatest quarterback ever. But Brady does. And Brady won a Super Bowl his second year. That's the peak. Or is stats the measure? Or is championships the measure? Playoff success. Is that the measure? See, Nick Wright is so used to using stats as an argument because he's so used to using it as an argument to help LeBron. To help people think that LeBron is the greatest, player ever or whatever. So he's so used to using stats as a barometer instead of using championships and using playoff success and using the impact a player has on a team. All those things combined is more than just stats. Now, LeBron James is a phenomenally talented player. I believe that he's a little bit too fragile mentally. Even now, I think LeBron James is more mature now, but he still has those moments where he feels like he has to validate himself. And now he's doing it through the social media, so
I disagree with you on that. That's the list of players at this point in their career you could make an argument are even on the same page as Patrick Mahomes. You can't. Peyton Manning at this point in his career wasn't close. Rodgers was not playing yet. Favre was on his second team. Brady was nowhere near the passer that Mahomes.
But they won the Super Bowl though. And Brady may not have been passing for 4,000 yards and 40 touchdowns. But as a sophomore, when people didn't think that this kid would even be in the league with the way that his combine went, and the fact that he was drafted in the 6th round, nobody expected him to be a second-year starter, and he took that team to a Super Bowl. Come on, man.
Is right now.
Right, but he won a Super Bowl.
Yeah, okay, that coach. And that listen, but we don't. Here's what we don't get to do with Tom Brady. You can't an hour ago talk about all the things the Patriots do better than everyone from a top down. Belichick does this great. They have this culture. They have this coaching staff. They have this infrastructure.
And again, this is another guy that gets caught up in separating things. People like to separate credit. Instead of giving credit to everybody, people like to separate the credit. Divvy it up. Like, who takes 100% of the credit? All right, well, Belichick gets 40% here because he's the coach. Brady gets 20% here because he's the star player. And then this player gets 2%, this player gets 1%, this player gets 4%, this player gets 4%, this player gets 2%. Like, why can't we just say as a team they work well together? Because Kyle Van Noy, since being on the Patriots, has been one of the most valuable players on that defense since he's been there. Devin McCourty is a 2-time All-Pro defensive back. First player ever to be an All-Pro as a corner and a safety. Some might consider that to be all-time great, because he's the only player to ever do that. Well, you know what? I can't even say that. I believe he was the first person to do that. I believe also Charles Woodson did it as well. I don't know if he was an All-Pro as a safety though. He might have been an All-Pro. I gotta look that up. But Devin McCourty was the first player to be an All-Pro at safety and cornerback. Dante Hightower. If it wasn't for that turnover in Atlanta, I don't know if the Patriots had enough to surge, to make a comeback against the Atlanta Falcons. I don't know if they had enough. I mean, there are players there. Trey Flowers, you have to give him credit. Willie McGinnis, Teddy Bruschi, Mike Vrabel, Rob Ninkovich. You have to give players credit. Randy Moss, Wes Welker, Julian Edelman. So we can't sit here and start divvying up credit. That's the problem with people. Everybody wants to look at one main source of the success instead of looking at every little piece as being a part of it. And this is what makes the Patriots great. It's not about one player, it's about the team. Now, early on in Brady's career, and pretty much after in Brady's career, if it benefited the team to have Brady be the main focal point where he's passing 50, 60 times a game without them running the ball at all, I'm pretty sure he would have had a few more 5,000-yard passing seasons, maybe another 50 touchdown passing season. I mean, but they do what they need to do week to week. In Kansas City, Patrick Mahomes, he is the guy. He is the weapon. And right now, he's unstoppable. So why go anywhere else? I say all that to say, we can't sit here and start divvying up the credit like everybody is entitled to their own piece of it. In professional sports, man, especially team-oriented sports, it takes a team to win. Every championship team, every Super Bowl winning team has at least 6 players on that team that you can make a strong argument for that they're the reason why that team was put in the best position to win.
And then say, but the Super Bowls are all Brady's. The Super Bowls are a personal accomplishment.
But that's not what I'm...
Idiots like him say that. Nobody else says that. Idiots like him say that.
saying. And look, institutionally, they have a ton of experience, okay, that they can draw on, and that's come from time. Tom Brady allows that to take place because Tom Brady hasn't been affected by the wealth, by the fame, by the success. And to me, with a guy who gets a lot of success early on in his career, it's what does he do next? How does he handle that? How does he keep developing? Or does he say, I'm good enough where I am, and this is going to be okay moving forward? And we've seen a lot of quarterbacks come into the league, whether it was Cam Newton or RG3 or Deshaun. Take your...
Sorry, all right, I'm going to do a part 2 to this, man, because I think I just messed up the video. All right.